Hello everybody, I hope you're all well. Today it's quite a chilly October morning. It's been raining again overnight. I've been out in the garden this morning picking some of the tomatoes. We're going to pick everything that's still on the bushes before the end of the weekend because I think it won't be long before we've got a bit of a nippy frost and then we'll lose all our tomatoes. And we don't want to waste them. You can do so much with them, from chutneys to bottled to passata and pasta sauces. Anyway, today I'm going to be making some membrillo, Membrillo, which is traditionally a Spanish quince paste. I've been making this for a number of years. When we bought this house, we inherited a quince tree. And it's been a good cropper most years. We had one year where it wasn't very good, but this year, despite the up and down weather, it's produced a lovely crop. Some of the fruits have gone rotten on the tree, but most of them have been tremendous, and we've had some real big ones as well. Anyway, the other day I picked some more quinces. I tend to pick them as I go along because I can't cope with a huge amount of quinces. We don't really have the room to store them, so I pick what I need at the time I need them. But I guess that if we need to pick them because of the frosts, I will pop them down and pop them in the freezer, and then I can make more membrillo or maybe some quince jelly at my leisure. I also like to put quince pulp in my nut roasts. I'm going to be soon making a chestnut roast for the freezer. This is ready for Christmas and I will show you how to do that. I hope to be bringing you some interesting content on the run up to Christmas. I thoroughly washed the quinces. They have a furry outer that needs to be removed. I put them in a pressure cooker with some water to cover. I didn't chop them first. They are quite a hard fruit. When they're very ripe, you can usually get a knife through them, but otherwise you're going to blunt your knives. So I pop them in whole, put enough water to cover, so don't overfill your pot. And then I pressure cook them for maybe 15-20 minutes until they smell ready. Once I get that lovely full quince flavour, I know they're ready. And then I just let them come back down on the temperature before opening the lid, and then once they're cool, either myself or Dan strains them through a sieve. We just rub the fruit until as much of the pulp as possible is in a clean bowl or pan, and then we refrigerate the pulp until it's ready to use. So this has been refrigerating a couple of days or so. It allows the natural sugars to come out as well. Now with quinces, you don't need as much sugar as you do normal fruit. I do my fruit jams the old-fashioned way. So for every pint of pulp, I add 3/4 pound or 350 grams of sugar, because they have more natural sweetness. If you put any more sugar than that, it'll be just too sweet and it won't be a good quince paste or a good quince jelly. This is what it looks like having been in the bowl for a couple of days. Here it is in its pulped state. Doesn't that look lovely? Look, let me show you. Look at that. Whoa, that's perfect. I'm going to measure it out into this jug. This is a 1.5 pint jug, and then I will calculate the sugar to pulp ratio. So let's get started. I'm going to fill this to the pint point. Alternatively, if you use the litre measurement, it would be 750 grams of sugar. There's a pint, look. I have a small scale here I do have a large one, but it's not as accurate. The larger one is a manual, old-fashioned scale type, you know, with the metal top on, which belonged to my mum. It's okay for baking, but when you need to be really precise with your sugar quantities for preserving, then I always use this. This bowl comfortably takes up to a kilo or so. Now I always add lemon juice as well, because you find that the pectin in the lemon and the pips helps to set the jam or jelly. I tend to do this when I give the fruit its first boil or pressure cook on the stove top. And now in with the sugar, and then stir it through thoroughly as you go. You can also spice up your quince paste with cloves, which gives a really nice flavour. I find most people like the traditional flavours, but the next batch I make, I might put some cloves on, just to shake things up a bit. There we go. I'm also adding a drop of rose water. I find this brings out the lovely perfume flavours of the quinces. You can also put rose water in your strawberries when you're making jam. Again, it brings out the natural flavours of the strawberries. The two go really well together. I'm also going to add a further squeeze of lemon. Roll your lemon first, it helps release all those lovely flavours. I'm just chopping off the end, I don't need a lot. Just squeeze it in. So that little bit of sharpness offsets the sweetness of that quince pulp. And again, stir it through thoroughly. And then this now goes on the stove top, ready to get to work. I have here some sterilised jam jar lids. I sterilise them by putting them in a heat-proof container, pouring boiling water into them, leaving them for at least 5 minutes, then tipping out the water and drying. Sometimes I also finish drying them off in a low oven between 100 and 125 Celsius, which is the temperature you want to be sterilising your jars in. These are the jars, these are clean jars. These are about 8-ounce size. I use these for jellies as well, such as quince jelly or apple jelly or mint jelly. These I have washed in warm soapy water and rinsed thoroughly. I invert them on a baking tray and pop them in the oven at about 125 Celsius for at least 15 minutes. If, for example, your oven temperature is slightly lower than that, you want to leave them for maybe 20-25 minutes. So these are now going in the oven, and in that time they will dry thoroughly and be completely sterilised. I've put the sugary quince pulp on the stove. There it is, look. And while it's starting to boil, you may get some scum like that coming around the edges. This we can remove with a spoon. I've got a big spoon and a bowl ready to catch all that scum. You don't really want that going into your preserve if you can possibly help it. It'll be okay, but it doesn't look very nice. Some people, when they're making jam or other sweet preserve, like to add a knob of butter, unsalted butter, to the pan because this disperses whatever scum is remaining. However, I like to keep my preserves vegan, and therefore I get as much of the scum out, and then if there's some in the jam pot, I remove it with a small teaspoon and put it onto clean paper before I seal and label it. What you can also do is, when you're ladling the hot liquid into the jar, you can do so by ladling it via a sieve, and that will get any remaining scum away from going in the jar. I've used both methods, but I find it's easier just to use a teaspoon. This is bubbling away, look at it. I've just taken it off the heat. I'm just going to get a little bit more scum off this. I'm going to put a bit on a saucer now and then put that in the fridge for 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll see if it wrinkles up. This is it. It's not quite wrinkling up enough. It started, but it probably needs a minute or 2 more. Here's the second attempt. Do you see that wrinkles like that? That's perfect. That's ready for potting up. We need to be quick because it's starting to set already. I have here a jar with a funnel. This is a jam funnel, and I'm just going to start to pour it in. That's the first one. Now I've just had a calamity and broken one of the jars. Fortunately, the liquid is still hot. If there's any left over, I may decide to do a little container of Membrillo. I think there probably will be some left over, because, yes, there will be, because a couple of the jars are over full. I just need a teaspoon to spoon the overflow into the other jar, just to make them even. And in fact, that can go back into there. They're perfect. They're quite clean. I have some wax discs here. You want the waxy side face down. Most good shops sell wax discs. I got these from lately. I use their stuff quite a lot, although by no means exclusively. And then we pop the lids on. The reason you want them tight is that they're going to form a vacuum as they cool, and they'll go pop, and that means they're fully sealed and they will last for at least 6 months. That's lovely and tight. Look at the beautiful rose colour of that. If there are any drips at all on the outside of the jar, you can give them a wipe. There we go. Now, with what's left, I've lined a little Tupperware container with some baking paper, which is grease-proof paper, and I'm just going to pour in the rest of the Membrillo. has cooled, I will put it in the fridge to chill overnight, and then it'll be ready for cutting tomorrow into squares. Membrillo is normally really expensive. It's something like £2.80 for 100 grams at the Good Shed in Canterbury. Your best days will sell it, and it's not cheap. I've done quite a few jars because I'm having a McMillan soon, and people will be donating money in exchange for a jar, and it goes to a really good cause as well. My Membrillo is always high in demand. Most people say it tastes really yummy. I had some in a pub in Rye recently. I was really surprised to find that they had it, and that was delicious as well. So there we go, that's the Membrillo. Give it a good shake, and once that's cooled, I'll pop it in the fridge. And that, folks, is how you make Membrillo. And it makes fantastic Christmas gifts as well. Well worth giving it a try if you can get hold of some Quinces. The Membrillo has set now. Let me show you how you might chop it up and present it ready for giving. Put it on the board. Pull the paper off very gently. These bits we will have this evening for supper, alongside some cheese and charcuterie for Dan and some soup. We had a good lunch today. We don't need a great deal. Now this is probably about 100 grams, and then cut one piece in half, and the next piece in half, the next piece in half, and the final piece in half. One time I would wrap the Membrillo up in wax paper, but at some point during the pandemic, the main UK producers of wax paper went out of business, and it's really been almost impossible for me to source. I do have a little bit left on the roll I bought before the pandemic, but not much. I tend to keep it for when I make chocolates. At some point I will show you how to make a chocolate truffle. I mean, they are delicious, and they're so special for giving as well. They taste so yummy. What I've done is I've opened up a cellophane card bag. Now this card bag isn't self-adhesive. You can often get self-adhesive ones, but it's almost better not to have that. I'm just cutting it down so the edges meet. Flatten it, and then place the pieces of Membrillo on the cellophane. There we go. They look yummy. Now, it doesn't matter too much if the cellophane gets a little bit sticky, because it's going to be going around the Membrillo anyway. There we go. And I'm just going to sellotape the edge. Fold up one side and sellotape that. Do it as neatly as you can. There we go. And then I'm going to just trim that side a little bit and turn in the other end, like so. Get a bit of sellotape. And secure that end as well. And then you have a nice parcel like that. I'll put a little bit extra on just to be safe and sure. There we go. And then we have our lovely parcel. And there we go, all prettily wrapped up with a bow tied around and a cute little handmade gift tag with a sweet message. This is going to my piano teacher, and this will sit in the fridge until Monday. This is how you can produce a nice little homemade gift with so much love and thought gone into producing it, and it doesn't cost the earth.
I've forgotten what it tastes like, so I have to try again. It's really nice.
Oh, good. Thanks, babe.